What's up, guys? This is The Network, back with another video, and today we are talking about the Bundy family, one of the top 13 Illuminati bloodlines. Now listen, most people, when they hear Bundy, they either thinking about Al Bundy from Married with Children, or the serial killer Ted Bundy, but nah, this ain't got nothing to do with that. This is a whole different Bundy family, and honestly, this one might be even scarier because these Bundys don't kill people with knives. They do it with policies, paperwork, and behind-the-scenes power plays. Now, before we get started, let me say, this video is for educational purposes only. If you want help understanding these systems deeper or get direct mentorship, you can contact the network directly on Discord. Telegram is no longer reliable for our private client work. Alright, let's get into it. So here's the thing with the Bundys. Their power isn't flashy like the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers. You don't see their name on banks or skyscrapers, but they were positioned perfectly inside the system. The government, the intelligence community, the universities, the think tanks, basically all the little back rooms where the real decisions get made. Now let me break this down so everybody can follow this game. Imagine America is like a giant corporation, and instead of having one boss, you got a secret board of directors who nobody sees. These families are sitting on that board, and the Bundys are like the legal department. They handle all the behind-the-scenes paperwork to make sure the corporation stays in control, no matter who's sitting in the CEO chair, aka the president. One of the biggest players was William Putnam Bundy. This man worked for the CIA. Now pause right there because I want you to really think about what that means. The CIA is not like getting a regular job at Target. You don't just fill out an application and hope for a callback. The CIA is where you get placed when you're already trusted by the people who actually run things behind the scenes. But it gets even crazier because William's brother, McGeorge Bundy, was even higher up. McGeorge was National Security Advisor to both President Kennedy and President Johnson. So while one brother was in the CIA, the other was literally sitting next to the president, helping decide when to go to war, who to bomb, what narratives to push to the public, basically making decisions that shape the entire world. You ever heard the phrase, inside man? Well, they were the inside men times 10. But McGeorge Bundy wasn't just some random dude that worked hard and made it to the top. Nah, he was groomed for this. Straight out of prep school, then off to Yale, and of course, Skull and Bones. Now, if you don't know what Skull and Bones is, that's basically the Ivy League version of the Illuminati recruiting ground. That's where they pull in young guys from elite families and train them to run the system. You got Skull and Bones members running everything from banks to media to government. It's like a secret fraternity where everybody's dad already owned the building. See, that's the difference. Regular folks work their way up the ladder. These guys are born at the top of the ladder, holding the flashlight for the rest of us to climb, while they're already in the penthouse suite. Now, if you start paying attention, you'll see this pattern everywhere. Skull and Bones members magically landing in the exact right positions every time. Media, banking, intelligence, foreign policy. It's like playing Monopoly, but one family owns all the properties before the game even starts. So back to McGeorge. After he left government, he became president of the Ford Foundation. Now, most people hear foundation and think charity, helping kids, building schools. Nah. These foundations are social engineering machines. They decide what research gets funded, what universities teach, what narratives get pushed on TV, what protests get media coverage, and which ones don't. Let me give you a real-world example. You ever wonder why some issues blow up overnight while others barely make the news? It's because these foundations fund the talking points behind the scenes. They don't control the news anchor, they control the script the anchor reads, and when you control the foundations, you control the universities. When you control the universities, you control what every future judge, lawyer, professor, and journalist believes before they ever step into their careers. That's how you control generations before they even know they're being programmed. Now here's where it gets deeper. The Bundys have been tied into this elite network for generations, going all the way back to New England old money circles. We're talking about the type of families that have private country clubs older than most American cities, families who marry other elite families just to keep the wealth and power all in the same bloodlines, like a real-life version of Game of Thrones, but instead of swords, they got law firms and investment banks. They also got tied into major think tanks like the Council on Foreign Relations, which is basically like Illuminati headquarters for public policy. This is where global strategies get designed, far above any president's pay grade. Right alongside groups like the Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group, Royal Institute of International Affairs, and the rest of these alphabet soup organizations that sound boring but control the entire chessboard. And just like we saw with the Astors, some Bundy family members stay completely behind the scenes, running legal operations and corporate strategies, while others take visible government roles to steer public policy. They play both sides of the fence at the same time. That's how you keep the system rigged while looking like everything's democratic and fair. Let's zoom out for a second to understand how this fits into the bigger Illuminati system. The 13 bloodlines don't all do the same job. They split the power up like a business. Some handle the money, some handle government, some handle education, some handle religion, but together they create a full circle of control, above all the governments we see on TV. This is why when folks argue about Democrats versus Republicans, it's really like watching a boxing match where both fighters are owned by the same promoter. No matter who wins, the House always profits. One of the most dangerous parts of their power is controlling information. When you control the textbooks, the school curriculum, and the news media, you can literally rewrite reality. Most people don't even know who the Bundys are, but these people have shaped wars, foreign policy, the economy, and even what you learn in school for decades. Now let's go even deeper. McGeorge Bundy helped create something called the Flexible Response Doctrine, which sounds like some fancy government term, but really it just means having options to start wars however they want. It wasn't about protecting America, it was about creating constant global conflict, because war equals money, war equals power, war equals population control. And when you control both sides of the conflict, you're guaranteed to win every time. This is why they were placed where they were. They weren't employees, they were chess pieces positioned by the people holding the board decades before most of us were even born. And it's not just America. They've had influence at the United Nations, the World Bank, international trade law, finance, everything that allows the globalist system to stay running smoothly. Remember, these people don't think in countries, they think in continents. Now here's something most people completely miss, the psychological warfare piece. The Bundys were heavily involved in early think tanks that specialized in public opinion management. These are the people who sit around and plan how to make you feel about certain topics. They don't just control facts, they control emotions, they control fear, division, and distraction. That's how they keep populations fighting amongst themselves instead of realizing who's actually running the game. Let's talk about education again, because this part's huge. Under McGeorge Bundy's leadership at the Ford Foundation, they funded programs that reshaped American higher education. They basically rewrote American history to fit their world government agenda. When you change how people understand the past, you control how they vote in the present and how they raise their kids for the future. It's like if you told a whole generation that Monopoly was a game where everybody starts with equal money and nobody cheats, they'd grow up never realizing that one player actually started with hotels on every property before the game even began. And like we've seen with the other bloodlines, the Bundys keep themselves behind the scenes. They let the faces on TV take all the heat while they quietly run the framework those decisions operate inside. That's how real power works. Silent control, maximum influence, zero accountability. Now, as always, let me remind you, this video is for educational purposes only. If you want to understand how these systems actually operate, how to maneuver through the system, build real leverage, and position yourself, you can reach out directly to the network on Discord. The mentorship is open for those who are serious about learning the real game. This is the network, and we'll be back with another deep dive very soon.